So, let us start today's discussion. We will be discussing the life and teachings of one of the disciples of Sri Ramakrishna. For those who are new, so Sri Ramakrishna had many monastic disciples, and the most famous and their leader was Swami Vivekananda, as we know. But there were others also, and they were very great spiritual giants, all of them. And even among those disciples, he had classed some as very special. Of course, Swami Vivekananda was one such. And another one was the life which we will discuss today, that is Swami Premananda. So, Prem, it is called divine love. In Sanskrit, it is called Prem. So, his very name suggests what was special about him. He was supposed to be an incarnation of divine love. And Sri Ramakrishna himself had given him a very special place. He had called him a ever perfect soul. So all normal people like us, we have some imperfections. We come to the earth to gain spiritual perfection and become free. But some people are there, he said, who are already perfect. They come to earth just to guide ordinary people like us. So Swami Premananda was one amongst them. And since they are already perfect, they are the veritable incarnation of purity. So Sri Ramakrishna used to say that Premananda, that is his previous name was Baburam, he is pure to the very marrow of his bones. Means no impure thought can ever cross his mind. And another of Sri Ramakrishna's disciples, whose name was Swami Brahmananda, who is also a very great personality, he used to say that Swami Premananda is so great that in whichever direction he looks, that direction becomes pure. So from these we can just have a faint idea of what stature these people belong to. So in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna we find that Sri Ramakrishna once said to Master Mashe, who was the recorder of the Gospel, that, see, I am having some difficulty about my physical needs. He was always in a state of ecstasy and he used to lose body consciousness. So he needed someone to look after his daily needs. But the problem was, when he was in a high spiritual state of consciousness, he became extremely sensitive. So if some ordinary person like us, if he touched him, he would feel great pain. So he needed someone who was extremely pure. Only he could touch him when he was in ecstasy. So that's why Sri Ramakrishna told them that if someone could stay with him so that he could look after him, and that someone he chose as Baburam. So he told Baburam himself one day, Swami Premananda, stay with me, because in high spiritual moods I cannot let each and every person touch my body. And of course, Baburam used to stay with him. So you can see his picture. This is the picture which is worshipped in Belur Mutt. All the direct disciples, there is one particular picture which is worshipped. So this is the picture. Now Baburam Ghosh, who was later Swami Premananda, was born at 11:55 p.m. on Tuesday, 10th December 1861 at a place called Atpur in West Bengal. So Atpur was a very small village then. From this map you can see that portion in red, that is Atpur. It's a very small place. It's still not a very big place, but since it was the birthplace of Baburam Maharaj, we've got a center there. Ramakrishna Mutt Center is there. So this is a very old picture of our center. Now it has become much bigger. So his father Tara Prasanna Ghosh and mother Matangini Devi came from well-to-do families of the same village. Both the parents were very pious and devoted to their family deity Lakshmi Narayan, and they had one daughter also. So luckily we have the picture of Baburam's sister also, and she was who? Jayadi? Krishna Bhavini Devi. So I'll show you a picture. This is Baburam Maharaj's sister, Krishna Bhavini, and she was married to Jayadi. She was married to this person, Balram Bose. Balram Bose, who was a great devotee of the master. So through Balram, who already was devoted to Sri Ramakrishna, his family and his wife's family also, that is Baburam Maharaj's family, became devotees of the master, that is Sri Ramakrishna. Later Baburam Maharaj said about his mother, my mother now and then would shut herself up in a room and meditate all day. If we happened to return home from Calcutta on those days, we had to live in a neighboring house and meet her the next day. She was very strict in her discipline. She would never allow us to stay with her in the village home, lest that spoil our education. But she would never utter a harsh word to her daughters-in-law or even to servants. So Baburam Maharaj's mother was a devotee of Sri Ramakrishna. Now, Sri Ramakrishna made a very unusual request. Once she visited him. The most unusual request a person can make to a mother. The master asked her, will you give me something? She said, yes sir, whatever you ask. So he said, will you give me your son? I want a pure-hearted boy to live with me. And his mother was so devoted, she agreed. She said, it is my good fortune that you are asking for Baburam. But does anybody give her son away for nothing? So I also want something in return. So master said, okay, what do you want? Tell me. So she said, I have just two requests. One, that I may have unflinching devotion to God. And second, that none of my children should pass away before I do. May I not have to suffer that terrible sorrow of having my children pass away before me. So of course, master granted both the boons. Now very little is known about Baburam's early life. We know that he was a handsome child and had a fair complexion. And even at a very young age, when he was just 4 or 5 years old, people joke with small boys and girls, when will you marry, what kind of person will you marry. So even when he was 4 or 5 years old, if someone brought up the idea of marriage, he would say, don't say that. I will die if you marry me. And when he was 8, he would imagine a beautiful wooded place on the bank of the Ganga where he would live in a hut with another monk and meditate on God. So all these visions came to be true when he met Sri Ramakrishna. So Baburam studied for a few years in his village school, and then his mother sent him to his uncle in North Calcutta to continue his education. He was first admitted to school called Banga Vidyalaya. So this is Banga Vidyalaya. Then he went to the Aryan school and finally to Metropolitan School, Sham Bazaar, where Master Mahashay was the headmaster. And Rakhal, Swami Brahmananda, you can see the photo, he was also his classmate. Now we come to Baburam's first meeting with the master, with his Sri Ramakrishna. So these people are special. From the very young age, they know their goal. They are not like worldly people. So he was looking for a guru, Baburam, who could help him to reach that spiritual goal. And one day he went to a religious meeting which were discoursing on the Bhagavata, and there he met Sri Ramakrishna. He just saw him first but did not know who he was. However, sometime before, some of his relatives had visited the master at Dakshineshwar. So observing Baburam's religious inclination, they told him to visit the master there at Dakshineshwar. Now Baburam knew that his classmate, Swami Brahmananda, often visited the master. So the next day he asked him about him. So they planned to visit him together the next Saturday after school hours, and this was probably on 8 April 1882. Baburam reminisced about that memorable visit. He said, Swami Brahmananda and I went to Hatkola Ghat in West Calcutta to take a boat for Dakshineshwar, and it was almost dusk when we reached the Kali temple. We went to the master's room and we were told that he had gone to the main temple. So Swami Brahmananda, who already knew the master, he went to the temple and brought him back. And the master was in an ecstatic state. So he was reeling like a drunken person. Now Sri Ramakrishna came and he inquired about who this newcomer was, Baburam. So Sri Ramakrishna said, okay, you are a relative of Balram Bose, because Baburam's sister was married to Balram Bose. So then he asked about him, that what is your native place? He said Antpur, etc. Then the master caught hold of Baburam's hand and said, come closer to the light, let me see your face. So the master used to examine the disciples, physical characteristics and all that. So in the dim light of the earthen lamp, he thoroughly examined Baburam's face, hands, feet, etc. because he could judge a person's nature by this type of examination. And then he said, okay, you have very good characteristics. So Baburam recalled the first night at Dakshineshwar. A few hours were spent delightfully in religious talk. And then in the night a funny thing happened. The master came out and said, could you please tell Narendra to come to me? Narendra is, you know that, Swami Vivekananda. So the master was very fond of Narendra, and Narendra had not gone to him for many days. So he was very eager to see him. Baburam thought that this Narendra must be a very cruel person, that the master wants to see him and he is not coming. But anyway, in the morning they found that the master was normal, and Baburam took leave, went to his home, and the master asked him to come again. So on the following Sunday he went again to Dakshineshwar. The master said, it is nice that you have come. Go to the Panchavati. Panchavati was that grove of 5 trees. Go there and you will meet Narendra also. So you can see Narendra's picture here, the future Swami Vivekananda. So Narendra and all were very young boys there, and they were having a great fun, a sort of picnic sort of thing. So Baburam, of course, had heard about Narendra from the master before, and he saw his large expressive eyes and handsome vigorous form. And his friendly jokes and humor, conversation and heavenly singing captivated Baburam's mind. He was also very impressed with Narendra's brilliance. So, one afternoon Baburam came to visit the master at Dakshineshwar. As soon as he arrived, the master said, "It is good you have come, but you cannot stay here because there was one devotee there, Devendranath Mazumdar." This is his photograph. So he was very ill then. So the master said, "He is very ill. Immediately you have to take him to Calcutta. So you cannot stay here, but I have got many things to tell you. So you come again." So Baburam left that day, but only to come again, and soon there was a deep relationship, and of course they were all drawn by Sri Ramakrishna's great love. So later Baburam used to tell his juniors, "Oh, how can I explain to you how much the master loved us? He would sometimes go to a carriage in Calcutta just to feed his young devotees. One day he was found waiting outside Balram Babu's house where I was staying." So Baburam was staying in Balram Babu's house. Master had gone to see him, and master was waiting outside at the house. In case he had to ask the permission, no, you cannot just enter anybody's house. So he was waiting because he had heard that Baburam was not there at that time. And someone finally came to know that the master was there, and he called him in. So Baburam knew that how much the master had loved him. He had just come from Dakshineshwar to see him. So Baburam was about 20 years old when he met the master. So this is, we have very many photographs of Swami Premananda, and as far as I could make out that this is when he was, among all the photographs, this is when he was the youngest. He looks like a very small boy, you can see. So he was 20 when he first met the master, but he still looked very much younger. And he was handsome, about 5 feet 8 inches tall, and very thin. You can see in the photograph. He had black hair and golden complexion. So in the beginning he visited the master only on holidays. Otherwise his family would think that he is bunking his classes and going there. So master also thought that what does Baburam intend to do? He is not clear. On one hand he is pursuing his studies. On the other hand he is also coming here. So he asked Master Mahashay one day that what does Baburam want to do? Is he clear in his mind? Does he want a worldly career, or does he plan to renounce his home and earth in the search of God? So it was left undecided for the time being. Now Baburam had come to the master and became his devoted attendant, and he used to say later about the master, Sri Ramakrishna was the embodiment of purity. So people are afraid a little of Sri Ramakrishna. Why? Because in a very high ecstatic state, if somebody touched him, he would feel pain. Sometimes he would cry in pain. So naturally, if all others were present, so that somebody would be in an embarrassing situation. So once what happened, Sri Ramakrishna was in a very high spiritual state, and there was one person who used to take bribes to increase his income. And that person at that time, he went and touched Sri Ramakrishna's feet, and Sri Ramakrishna cried out in pain. So people were very afraid, what will happen? But of course, Baburam was an exception. They were so pure. So by master's grace, they were allowed to live with him. And of course, there was no problem when these people touched him. So now, as we have seen, Baburam was also preparing for his examination. another picture we have here of Swami Premananda as a young person. So he was preparing for his entrance examination, but after meeting the master, slowly he began to lose interest in his studies. Now, this is recorded from a conversation held on 7th March 1885. Sri Ramakrishna said to him, "Where are your books?" Maybe in a sarcastic way. "Don't you plan to pursue your worldly career? Where are your books?" So Baburam naturally did not say anything. He may have been embarrassed. So Master Masha was also there. So Sri Ramakrishna said, "See, this boy, on one hand he is pursuing his worldly career, on the other hand he also wants to realize God. So what do you want? God vision or worldly career?" So Sri Ramakrishna said he wants both. But that is very difficult. You can't have that. So Baburam said, no, I want to realize God. Then the master said, then why are you holding on to both? Come away from the world then. Renounce the world. So Baburam was also clever. He said, you make me renounce them. By your spiritual power, if you draw me, then I'll come, leaving everything. So what Baburam wanted happened. He failed in his entrance examination. Naturally now, his family members may have been disappointed, but Sri Ramakrishna made very light of it. He said, okay, that is very good, that you have failed. So he used to use a pun. Now, in Bengali language, Sri Ramakrishna's mother tongue was Bengali. So English language, pass means to pass an examination. In Bengali language, there is a similar word called pash. Pash means bondage. So Sri Ramakrishna played a pun. He said, now that he has not passed, he is free from all pash. Means he is free from all kinds of bondages. So in front of Baburam, he said, I have been seeking one who has totally renounced worldly desires. When I find a young man, I think he will stay with me, but he also wants to pass examinations. So in a way of jokingly he said. Anyway, so Baburam had failed and there was no bondage for him now. So he began to live with Sri Ramakrishna, and living with the master was a great experience in itself. So this is the photograph of Sri Ramakrishna, as you know. So Baburam later recalled, through humor, tales and parables, he would explain to us the most intricate philosophy which were confusing even to scholars. His wonderful skill in teaching left a deep impression on our hearts forever. And he used to say, very little of the teachings of the master are recorded in the gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. Why? Because those were the teachings when only Master Masha was present. Master Masha has recorded that. And he used to come on Sundays. And Sundays there were many householders. So only those conversations are recorded there naturally. But Premananda Maharaj said later that when he used to teach us, the future monastic members, he would first see that no householders are nearby. Then he used to call us and then give us our special teaching. But because the teaching for monks and teachings for householders cannot be the same. One is not meant for the other. So naturally the teachings meant for the monks have never been recorded. So that's why Baburam used to say that what he used to teach us in private, of course those are not recorded at all. Then about the master's way of working, he told, we saw him working in the garden and also sweeping his room. He could not tolerate any work done in an haphazard manner. He himself did everything precisely and gracefully. and he taught us to do the same. So generally what we do, we take something from somewhere and put it anywhere we like. But Sri Ramakrishna could not stand that. He said, you take something from anywhere, put it at the right place. And we know that in the middle of around 1885, Sri Ramakrishna developed throat cancer. He moved to Calcutta for treatment and finally settled in Kashipur, where he passed away. So Baburam stayed with the master and served him along with other disciples. Sri Ramakrishna continued to train his disciples, and we know that one day he distributed ochre cloths to them just as a future, to indicate their future mission in life. Sri Ramakrishna passed away on 16th August 1886. Baburam temporarily moved to his mother's house in Calcutta. But we know that shortly afterwards the disciples established the first monastery, which was at Baranagar Mutt. Now the disciples gathered together and they went to Atpur. So this is Baburam Maharaj's birthplace. We have seen one old photograph. This is how it looks now. So this is the new, this all belongs to Ramakrishna Mission now. So they had gone to Atpur and it was cold at that time. So the disciples lighted a fire. At that time there was no central heating and all that. So they lighted a fire and sat around it. And then Swami Vivekananda was there with them. So he started telling about the life of Jesus Christ, about the great renunciation of Jesus Christ. So the others were greatly inspired, and before that fire, that in India we do that, before a fire we take the vows. So those disciples, in front of that fire, they took monastic vows. They all decided they would become monks. And each of the other disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, the names we know, so all of them were naturally, we know that they were given by Swami Vivekananda. So he, seeing the great manifestation of divine love in Baburam, he gave him the name Swami Premananda. And now he was called by that name from then on. So Prem Ananda means one who is constantly enjoying the bliss of divine love. So at Baranagar, the disciples lived a very austere life. We know that sometimes they did not have even sufficient food. But of course, they were completely immersed in meditation on God. Practically the whole day they used to spend. But about Baburam's activities in Baranagar, we don't know much. Nothing has been recorded. We only know that he used to meditate with the rest of them and also help in the household work and all that. And in the last part of February 1887, Premananda left for Puri for a pilgrimage. So this is the Jagannath temple of Puri. So Swami Premananda had gone there with Swamis Sardananda and Abhedananda. They stayed there for 6 months. Then they visited other places of pilgrimage also, like Bhubaneswar, Konark and all. Then they returned to the monastery. Then in 1889, Premananda went to Varanasi, where he met the great illumined soul, Trailanga Swami. This is his photo. You must be knowing that Sri Ramakrishna himself had seen him. So he met Trailanga Swami, and also he met another very great person there, Swami Bhaskarananda. This is Swami Bhaskarananda. Now, while he was there, from there he went to Gazipur to see Vivekananda, who was then staying with the great yogi Pavhari Baba. But Premananda became ill at Gazipur, so went back to Varanasi. In the meantime, a tragic incident occurred. Swami Premananda's brother-in-law, Balram Bose, you have seen the photograph, he died on 13 April 1890. So naturally, Premananda's sister husband, so he had to go to Calcutta to console his sister. And the Ramakrishna monastery was in Baranagar from 1886 to 1892, and then it was shifted to Alam Bazar. And while living in Alam Bazar, Premanand went to Dakshineshwar quite often. So those olden days in Alam Bazar monastery, all the disciples were together, and then we know that the monastery was moved to Nilambar Babu's garden house, which is near Belur Math. Now in 1895, Premananda again visited various places in northern India. Then he settled for some time at a place called Kala Babu's Kunj, that is in Vrindavan. So this is the place, and Holy Mother Sarda Devi had also stayed here and performed austerities there. So Baburam Maharaj also stayed there, and another Swami Vivekananda, who also became later president of the Ramakrishna mission, he joined him there. But when the two were there, they heard that Swami Vivekananda was returning to India from the west towards the end of 1896. So they left for Calcutta to meet him. But on the way they stopped at a place called Bardhawan to visit Holy Mother at Jairam Bati. This is Holy Mother, as you know. They stayed with Mother for a few weeks and then went to meet Swami Vivekananda. So Swamiji had returned from the west. Now he set about forming the monastery in a proper way. And he introduced a daily routine in the Alam Bazar monastery. Meditation, chanting, exercise, karma yoga, all these things. Scriptural classes, question answer sessions, arti, etc. And everybody had to get up at a proper time, at very early in the morning, 4 a.m. or so. And he made it a rule that those who would not get up would not get food in the monastery at that day. They would have to go and beg their food. So unfortunately, one day Premananda also woke up late, but because he was his brother disciples, there was no relaxing the rules. So he had to go outside and beg his food. Now, in March 1897, Swami Ramakrishna, who was looking after the worship of the Master, was asked to go to Madras by Swami Vivekananda. So now who will look after the worship? So that responsibility was given to Swami Premananda. From then on, he used to look after the worship of the Master. Another photograph of Premananda. So Nilambar Babu's garden house, the monastery was moved to till on 13 February 1898. Swamiji means Swami Vivekananda, consecrated the Belur Math on, this was on 9th December 1898. In the meantime, Premananda had left for a pilgrimage to northern India on 4th April, but returned in December during the consecration ceremony. Now, Swami Vivekananda used to stress more on the service of the living God rather than just worshipping God in a photograph or an image. So he told Premananda that, brother, All these days you have been worshipping God with flowers, sandal paste, and all that. Now start worshipping the living gods. Who are the living gods? The poor, the destitute, etc. So go to Belur village and serve the poor and afflicted persons. So Swami Premananda, of course, obeyed Swami Vivekananda, and he said later that while I was serving those poor persons, I felt I was actually serving God Himself. Swami Vivekananda passed away on 4th July 1902. Just 3 days before passing away, he was walking in Belur Math along with Swami Premananda. And he told, of course he knew everything, when he would pass away, etc. So he pointed to a spot and he told Premananda, when I die, you cremate my body there. He just 3 days after that he passed away. So of course his wish was fulfilled, his remains were there, and now there is a Vivekananda temple there, you know. So before passing away, Swami Vivekananda gave 2 instructions to Premananda. First, he would have to manage the headquarters, Belur Math. So he was the manager of Belur Math till the last days of his life. Secondly, he said, don't initiate any disciple. Don't give initiation to anybody. Because Swami Brahmananda was the president of the order. Swami Brahmananda is already initiating people. So Swami Vivekananda said, if you also start, then later, after you people have gone, your disciples and his disciples will start fighting amongst them. So seeing all that, he said, you don't initiate. So of course, there was no question of disobeying Swami Vivekananda. So Swami Premananda never made any disciple in his life. And he was the manager of Belur Math also, in charge of Belur Math practically. So what were his duties? Apart from his regular worship, he trained the monks, entertained the devotees and visitors, supervised the kitchen, dairy and garden, took care of the sick monks, collected money for the maintenance of the monastery, and sometimes also went out for preaching work. So just imagine, and those were very difficult days. You didn't have any paid staff or anything like that. Everything the monks had to do, and very, very, very simple food. Sometimes practically at breakfast, practically nothing was there sometimes. Even much later, even after the direct disciples had passed away, even 50 years after that, they had practically nothing. The only main meal used to be the lunch. So, Premananda's body was fragile, but since he was such a great soul, his magnetic personality attracted many people to him. And he taught more through personal example than through words. So we are very lucky that from other monks we have his reminiscences first hand. What was his daily routine? He would go to bed at 11 p.m., get up at 3 a.m. After washing, he would go to the shrine, perform the morning worship of the master. Then he would meditate with the monks for a couple of hours. Then there would be devotional singing. At 8 a.m., Premananda would instruct the monks to do their respective duties, and he himself used to sit with them, cutting vegetables and all that. So, Belur Math, even then, this was a big job because many people used to come and have their afternoon meal there, afternoon prasad, as it is called. So Premananda taught the monks practical spiritual life, how to blend work and worship in daily life. Even while cutting vegetables, he would talk about God and relate many stories about Sri Ramakrishna also. and he would watch everybody, how they were cutting. So sometimes what happened that a monk would be careless. Suppose you are peeling potatoes. So if a monk is careless, he will peel a little more, no, cut it a little deep. So that means wastage. Wastage of potato. If he would see that, he would scold him. Even for that. That why are you wasting? Devotees have given money, that is a hard-earned money. You cannot waste it like that. Be very careful. Then he would also join the monks in pulling out weeds, like in the garden, cutting fodder for the cows, making fuel by mixing cow dung with coal dust. And he would not just give orders. He would say all work here is sacred. He would say whether you cut vegetables, whether you go out to give lectures or perform worship, everything is God's service. So you have to learn to do everything with equal sense of reverence. And we have another reminiscence of Swami Premananda by one of our monks, Swami Ashokananda. So Ashokananda says, he continually impressed upon the minds of the monks that they had to be completely devoid of egotism, and never were they to be careless in any way and completely devoid of worldly desire. Everything had to be done perfectly from beginning till end. So this is another photograph of Swami Premananda. So once he explained the reason for it, he used to tell the boys, my boys, one day you'll have to do very responsible things. If you don't learn the habit of responsibility in small things, you will not learn it when you do big things also. That is why make that a habit. Another reminiscence of another Swami who was there with him. From early morning till he went to bed, Swami Premananda spent his whole time serving Sri Ramakrishna, the monks and the devotees. He was an embodiment of service. His service to the Master was living, as if he could see his living presence. So, he used to teach the monks that these three, the scriptures, the devotee and God, all are one and the same, as Sri Ramakrishna used to say. And the devotees, visit Belur Math. Now, of course, they visit in thousands. So, Swami Premananda used to be specially attentive to welcoming and serving the devotees. He used to consider it a great privilege to serve the devotees of God, and sometimes it would happen that if they would come at odd hours, after the main cooking is done, after the devotees are fed, the monks have eaten, then the kitchen etc. are shut up till evening. So if someone comes in late, you may have nothing. So if some devotee used to come in late, sometimes Premananda used to give his own food to them. Or he would enter the kitchen just to cook for them. He would not disturb the monks. If some monk came, he said, no problem, you are working so hard, I will cook for them. And we know that during that time there was India's struggle for freedom was taking shape slowly. And some young men who were involved in the freedom struggle, they also used to come. And sometimes they would also argue with the monks that Swami Vivekananda has told us to give everything up for the country, so we should fight for freedom. Why have you renounced everything, and why is Ramakrishna Mission not actively helping in India's struggle for freedom? So the monks would say, Swami Vivekananda has told that first build up your character. If your character is not built up, even if freedom is given to you, you will not be able to hold that freedom. So many monks, coming to understand Swami Vivekananda's teachings in the correct perspective, they, revolutionaries who were there, they also renounced everything and became monks. And one of them was Swami Nikhilananda, who has translated the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna into English. He was in the West for many years in New York. Ramakrishna Vivekananda Center, that I also visited that place when I had gone there now. So, more about the training of the monks, because that was the main job of Swami Premananda. He used to tell everybody, never forget the goal of human life is to have the vision of God. That is why you have come, renouncing the world. Struggle hard to attain love and devotion. You are men now, but be gods. Teach others by the example of your own lives. So one day he told that I see very clearly that when we have gone, that is when the disciples of Sri Ramakrishna have gone, many people will come to you to hear about the Master. So one young monk said, who will listen to us? You people are very great because the Master has made you great. So people are inspired by you. Who will come to us? So when he said, Master had made you great, Swami Premananda said, no, Master did not make us great. What did he make us? He said he made us nobodies. So nobodies means he completely effaced any egotism from us. So since egotism was gone, they had become a perfect channel of God's power flowing through them. That's why they had such great personalities. Premananda was an embodiment of humility, patience, forbearance and forgiveness. Because when you have to deal with so many people, a huge monastery and so many devotees, so people would come all the time and many would be of different natures. So if the person who is managing everything does not have forbearance, if he gets angry or if he gets irritated, then you can't manage any big institution. So Premananda knew the idiosyncrasies of all these people and he knew that every person has his own peculiarities. So he used to say, after finishing my morning meditation, when I come down the stairs of the shrine, I repeat this mantra. Mantra means that great teaching of the Master. What? In Bengali it is sha, sha, sha. So in English, forbear, forbear, forbear. Forbear with everybody, cooperate with everybody, learn to live with everybody. That's a very great teaching, practical for us also. And he was so humble that he used to say, I don't harbor the idea that I am doing any good to anybody. I have come to learn. There is no end of learning. As Sri Ramakrishna used to say, we can learn, we should learn till we are alive. Always keep an open mind. Never think that I know everything. So because he was so loving to all, Swami Premananda was referred to as the mother of Belur Mutt. He also used to be quite stern at times, but it was also always for the good of others. So one person was there, he was cutting fodder for the cows. That when that those who have seen it, there's a big wheel revolving and you cut it like this. So one brahmachari, one novice was cutting and he must have been a little careless. So he cut his finger a little. And Swami Premananda had gone to that shed to see what he was doing. So that novice tried to hide that cut finger because he knew if he saw, he would not get sympathy, he would get scolding. So Swami Premananda saw that his finger had been cut. So immediately came the scolding. He said sharply, you are careless. I asked you to cut the fodder, not your finger. Hmm. I thought you were a very clever boy, but you have proved yourself a fool, and me a greater one, that I gave you this work. Then he of course took the boy to the dispensary, had his finger bandaged and all that. So of course the monks used to engage in laughter, etc., and some jokes also, etc. So Premananda was a very strict disciplinarian, as we have seen. And sometimes other disciples of the master would also joke with him. So one morning the monks were all with Swami Premananda in his room, and they were having spiritual talk. So everybody is there, but if everybody remains there, who will do all the work? So Swami Premananda began to shout, "Hey, all of you, now the time for work, enough of spiritual conversation, now come below." So Swami Brahmananda was there with the monks. So he told the monks, as a way of joke, so that you go and tell Swami Premananda one thing. What? He said, tell him that, sir, you are a disciple of Sri Ramakrishna, you have so much spiritual power. You give us liberation. You give us God vision right here and now. Then we won't have to do any work. So Premananda heard all this from below. He shouted, "All right, you can practice your God vision. To that I have no objection. I will do all work myself. But if I see that you are trying to meditate and the whole world is in your minds, you are not meditating on God, but you are thinking about everything, then I will come and pull you by the ears and put you to work again." So he not only made them work, but also was very strict that they were pursuing their studies also, because Vivekananda wanted that the monks should be learned monks. So once he scolded a brahmachari, a novice, who was always engaged in some work here and there. So then he asked him, "Are you studying the scriptures or only working like a coolie?" So the novice replied, "I don't know Sanskrit well." So one other monk was there, that Maharaj, he has left his home just because he wouldn't have to study and pass examinations. Now he's come here, again you are wanting him to study. But Premananda didn't pay any attention to all those jokes. He named some books to that novice. He said, "You study those books from beginning to end in 3 months. Otherwise, I will give you the money, you can just cross the Ganga." So cross the Ganga means what? You just go out. Because Belur Math is situated on the banks of the Ganga. So when they say, you take the money and cross the Ganga, means you go from here. Just as a joke. Yeah. So he was such a great soul that becoming absorbed in very high spiritual states, when person even loses consciousness of the body, was a regular affair with him. So one day, after the evening service, after the evening arati, Premananda sat for meditation in the old temple. Old temple, of course, those who have gone on, they only know. So it was his routine, and he would get down at a proper time for supper and all that. But once what happened, the usual time passed and he did not come. So attendant of the shrines went searching for him. He found that Premananda was sitting absolutely motionless. He had no consciousness. So he thought that maybe the Swami was sleeping, because he was doing so much work, maybe he had become tired. Then in order to wake him up, or so he thought, he held a light before Swami Premananda. So Swami Premananda, who was in a very high spiritual state, slowly opened his eyes. Then the monk asked him that, "Had you gone to sleep?" So Premananda answered with a song which says, that is Ram Prasad's song, that I cannot sleep anymore. I have gone to a state where sleep has left me. So this is that song, this is indicating that he was in a very high spiritual state. And then he told that person that when you find me in the state, just repeat Sri Ramakrishna's name and I will come down again. Now, the next portion of his life is his preaching. But that was it requires a detailed discussion, because the great influence he exerted and how he had gone to various places. The most of all he visited was what was then East Bengal. Now it is called Bangladesh. And the many teachings which he gave, we have verbatim now. But if we start that, it will take a long time. So we have to keep that discussion for a later period. And unfortunately, what happened was, because of his preaching only, because of his going out to those places so often, and even now in those places, that kind of hygiene and modern hygiene is not maintained. So either of physical exhaustion or eating some contaminated food, Premananda became sick after all that preaching words, etc. So now we just come to the end and we leave the preaching work for some other occasion. He became sick and he came to Belur Math in the middle of June 1917. The doctors diagnosed his disease as something which is known as Kala Azar, a malignant fever which was frequently fatal. At that time there was no cure for that. So during those days the climate in Belur Math was not good, so he was taken to Udbodhan. You can see another one of his photographs here. He was taken to Udbodhan, where Holy Mother was there, and then to Balram Babu's house, his sister's house. Now on 20th October 1917, he came to know that his mother had been attacked by plague and her condition was critical. So before this, Swami Premananda had fallen seriously ill and people were wondering whether he would survive or not. But even when he was sick, Premananda told him, "Don't worry, I won't die because my mother is alive." Because his mother had asked a boon that none of her sons should pass away in front of her. But now he received the news that his mother was very sick due to plague. So Premananda asked his attendant, whose name was Satyananda, to go and check on his mother. And Satyananda, when he came and checked on her, he realized that the lady would not live long. And his mother's great desire was to die near the Ganga, touching the Ganga. Hindus consider the Ganga to be very pure. So Premananda's brother, relatives and Satyananda took his mother to the bank of the Ganga. And she was on a cot. Even in that state, she was continuing her japa of the mantra. And after some time, she just said, "Glory to Sri Ramakrishna," and passed away. She was 94. So now his mother is gone. And we know what will happen. So now, sometime in March or April 1918, Premananda was sent by his Calcutta doctors to Devghar. Devghar is a health resort and it has very good climate. In the beginning, his health improved, but the fever relapsed, and he also developed some stomach trouble. In spite of his illness, every day at 11 a.m., he would send his attendant to the Devghar station to receive the devotees, because he was always very particular about serving devotees. So he knew many people would come to see him, and he would take care even then to arrange for their stay, food, etc. And one day, Premananda expressed a desire to meet the famous yogi Balananda Brahmachari. So when the message was sent, that yogi came to him and he saw Premananda in that state. So he said to Premananda, "Sir, if a monk does not have any attraction for his body, the body will not last. So I request you to please pay a little attention to your body." So Swami Premananda said, "I have no attachment to this body. I am ready to go any time. My mind has been given up to God." So during this time there was a worldwide influenza epidemic and many people died. And Premananda, in that weak state, he also caught this deadly flu. As it is, he was sick. So when the sad news reached Belur, Swami Shivananda went to Devghar and brought back Premananda to the house of Balram Bose. It was Saturday, 27 July 1918. So the doctor still did not give up hope. His bed was made in the big upper hall, and Swami Brahmananda was staying in the next western room, and Thuryananda was downstairs. Thuryananda had surgery on his legs, so he could not walk. Premananda wanted to see him, so Thuryananda was brought on a chair to meet him. On Tuesday, Swami Premananda's condition deteriorated, and people saw that Swami Brahmananda was gravely pacing the veranda of his room. All of a sudden, Swami Brahmananda carried a picture of Sri Ramakrishna to Swami Premananda. He knew that the final moment was coming. And he told, "Baburam, please look at the master." So he said, "Baburam," called out loudly, "do you remember the master?" Premananda opened his eyes, looked with a smile at the painting of the master hanging on the wall, and just bowed down with folded hands. So he just uttered this one word thrice before passing away. "Grace, grace, grace, Kripa, Kripa, Kripa," and then passed away. This was 4:14 p.m. on Tuesday, 30th July 1918. His body was taken to Belur and cremated there on the bank of the Ganga. So Holy Mother Sardadi was still alive at that time. So when news reached her, she cried bitterly and said, "Baburam was dearest to my heart. All the energy, devotion and wisdom of Belur were embodied in my Baburam and walked there on the bank of the Ganga." Swami Brahmananda also felt very sad, and he said, "Belur has lost its mother." So in the end, I will quote the few sentences from Swami Chaitananda's book on Swami Premananda, this disciples, in which he says, "Premananda closed his market of love and flew away into the infinite on two powerful wings, renunciation and love. At the time of his passing, his possessions were an empty canvas bag, a couple of ochre clothes, and a pair of slippers, umbrella, and a few books. That was all he had. Truly, he was Premananda, bliss in love. He was bliss and he was love, an all consuming love that revealed itself in the service of all. This service of all, especially the devotees of God, was the burning passion of his life. So with these words we can end today. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.